Okay, so we're going to do another run through of a one-way ANOVA. For this problem, we are going to look at the relationship between tanning and happiness. So let's assume we own a tanning salon, we're working in the mall, and we do a study where we offer some people a tan and we make them wear sunscreen. We offer some people a tan and we tell them not to wear sunscreen. Let's just say it's a 5 or a 10-minute tan so we're not causing skin cancer. And let's say we offer some people a coupon to come back on another day and get a tan so they don't actually get a tan at the mall on the day that we're running this study. All right, so they have 3 possible options: a tan with sunscreen, a tan without sunscreen, and no tan. And then let's say we measure their happiness on a 0 to 10 scale, with 0 being very unhappy and 10 being extremely happy. All right, so the first question I'm going to ask you is which variable is our independent and which is our dependent? Hopefully you're with me. Tanning is the independent and happiness is the dependent. All right, so we are going to work through the one-way ANOVA. First thing we do anytime we see a column of numbers is we are going to summarize that data with sums, ends, and means. So keeping in line with our new notation, our sums are capital letters. So this is group A1, this is group A2, and this is group A3. So all of our summary information here is going to be referring to A1s, A2s, and A3s. So starting with our sums are capital letters. So capital A1 is the sum of this column, which is 36. N A1 is the number of subjects in this column, which is 4, and Y bar A1 is the mean of this column, which is 9. All right, we're going to do the same thing for the other 2 columns. Capital A2 is 34, NA2 is 4, and Y bar A2 is 8.5. And then finally, capital A3 is 10, NA3 is 4, and Y bar A3 is 2.5. All right, so feel free at any point during this video, if I'm going too quickly, just pause it, do the calculations yourself, and then make sure that your numbers align with mine. All right, a few more other summary things we have to do on this before we start the real steps of the one-way ANOVA. We have to write down our little a, which, reminder, when you see little a by itself without anything next to it, that means the number of groups. In this case, we have 3. Little n by itself is the number of subjects per group, which in this case is 4. Capital T, it's a capital, so that means it's a sum. This is the grand sum, which is the sum of all 12 of these scores. So you can either add up all 12 of these scores, or if you trust your calculations here, you can add up 36, 34, and 10. And so that equals 80. And then Y bar T is the grand mean. It's the mean of all these scores. So the formula for this is capital T divided by little a times little n. So it's 80 divided by 3 times 4, and that equals 6.67. So once we have all that summarized, we are ready to calculate our basic ratios. And remember, in the one-way ANOVA, there are 3 basic ratios. The first basic ratio is the basic ratio for y, and the formula for this is simply the sum of the y's squared. So remember, this is like the 3rd week or so that we've been referring to this notation with the y. Y is a score. So for this part of for this step, you're going to take each one of these 12 y's, square them, and add them up. All right, so we've got 10 squared plus 9 squared plus 9 squared plus 8 squared. Moving on to the next column, plus 9 squared plus 8 squared plus 8 squared plus 9 squared plus 5 squared plus 2 squared plus 0 squared plus 3 squared. And when you go through and add all those things up, which I encourage you to pause and do on your own calculator, because you definitely want to make sure that you're getting the same numbers that I am. When you go through all those steps, this should equal 654. Our next basic ratio is the basic ratio for A, and the formula for this is the sum of the capital A squareds divided by n. All right, so again, this is why it's super important that you're using the proper notation throughout this problem. You want to look at this and know right off the bat what a capital A is. There's lots of A's over here, right? There's A's up here, there's A's throughout here, there's A's here. Try to get it in your head to use proper notation and you'll never go wrong here. So capital A's refer to sums. These are the sums of these three columns. So what we're going to do here is take each one of these column sums, square them, and add them up. So we have 36 squared plus 34 squared plus 10 squared, and then we're going to divide by n, which in this problem is 4. So again, I encourage you to run this through on your calculator and make sure you get the same number that I do. When I did this on my end, I got 638. Our final basic ratio is our basic ratio for t, and the formula for this is capital T squared divided by A times n. So going over here, our capital T, right, not our y bar t, our capital T is 80. We're going to square that and divide by little a times little n. So 80 squared divided by 3 times 4. And when I did this, I got 533.33. But again, I encourage you to do that on your own. All right, so a few things we want to do before we move on. You want to do the check. So your basic ratio for y should be your biggest, which it is, and your basic ratio for y should be your smallest, which it is. So this doesn't mean your numbers are right, but it's a good sign that you're on the right track. The other thing you want to do is really kind of look at these numbers and ask yourself, do these three numbers, are they sort of in the same ballpark? So we've got, mid-100, 600, 600. This should be about the same size. If you get numbers up here that are in the hundreds and then you come down here and your number is like 6, you probably forgot to square this t. And it's an easy mistake to make because the formula for the basic ratio for t squared divided by a times n, is almost the same as the formula for the grand mean. The difference is it's squared. So basic ratios, one last thing, and this will come in handy later on when we do other ANOVAs. Kind of the rule of thumb with basic ratios is whatever's in the brackets, you're going to square. So basic ratio for y, there's y in the brackets, you're going to square the y's. A, you're going to square the a's. T, you're going to square the t. So in the next video, we're going to go through sums of squares, hopefully through the end of the problem.